G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War update for the 9th of May 2026. 81 years since the end of World War II in Europe. Victory VE Day, where I suppose was the classic example that Sun Tzu would shake his head at because, when Sun Tzu said, "Enemy of my enemy is my friend," right? He's talking about let them fight, not pick a side. Now, we know now from declassified documents about World War II, with more to come, there's dozens of them still, operations, secret deals. We know, I think the least secret deal, I think one of the first deals that was declassified, was exposing the von Ribbentrop deal. That basically Germany and Russia a year prior had come to an agreement through the German diplomat von Ribbentrop to divide Poland between them. Germany felt that they could no longer deal with Poland as an independent nation because they were increasingly hostile. The Russians also, however, just simply straight up wanting to spread the communism, and this is the thing, they made no bones about it. Now, by openly stating to the Germans they wanted to spread communism to Europe, signalled the beginning of Operation Barbarossa when von Ribbentrop told Hitler the conversation between him and Stalin. As Hitler immediately knew, but instead of alarming everyone, he just quietly pulled aside his key generals and quietly informed them that he believes, the assessment that the Soviets were planning a war with Germany. Now, we do not have any definitive proof that that information was not fed to them in order to create the war in the first place, or, again, was a pretext to war. But there are many people who question history now. I'm not questioning the authentic history or not. All I'm saying is the reason behind this all is that Russia doesn't want to accept its role, and nor does Europe, nor does anyone else. They want to neatly package everything on the little mustache man and call it a day. So in order to do that, they have to appease the radical elements who, as you can see, are calling for revolution, are calling for violence, are calling to socially ostracize, punch, to call anybody who doesn't believe in their politics as not worthy of a sexual relationship, to deny them children, to deny them, and if they have children, to take them off them. You can see that all socialism, right, was the enemy, and that the common sense approach should have been to not support the various socialist movements in the first place. That when you banned one, should have banned them all. But this is the predicament we're in. By not doing so, you created festering wounds. You created grievances where there should have been a celebration for victory over the oppression of all peoples. Because, don't forget, the socialists promised everyone equality, except only it was Animal Farm. The pigs bolted the doors shut, put the dogs at the door, and said, "Right, you can be mean now to any police brutality. You know all those things you complain about. Those you were too soft back then. You should have killed them. Killed them. Stick the boot in and harder." So, and of course, oppress, and while they fed on all the rewards for themselves, while they did the least amount of work, they have had to oppress everyone. Everyone's equally oppressed because there is no common sense when it comes to politics. And so Ukraine carries wounds, and instead of healing the wounds, they were oppressed again. And now they seem to be in the point of embracing their past oppressors to get revenge on another past oppressor, instead of accepting accountability of the Ukraine revolution from 1917 to 1956, the ongoing multiple revolutions, the mass incarceration, the mass genocide, the mass murder of civilians by militarized forces who were often cowards without uniform, terrorists who engaged in brutal, underhanded tactics, and then, while crying about oppressors and brutality themselves, all because they wanted power. And again, because the outside world did not have the emotional maturity to say, hey, we better do something about this. No, because they'd rather, Germany, they were too busy focused on their economy. Yes, Germany, the British and French were upset that the German economy is getting too strong for us to control. Yeah. And again, even today, we must control Germany. We cannot allow them to dominate Europe. That is the French. Only the French can dominate Europe. Instead of tearing down. This is the problem. Everyone projects onto others. So today we have, back in World War I and World War II, it's France projecting onto Germany, England's insecurities. Today we have Ukraine's insecurities projected onto Russia. And so trying to get peace in Ukraine is like trying to get a woman to accept responsibility for her mistakes. I did not crash the Mercedes. I lost control. The car, it just went out of control. I couldn't stop it. Zelensky was voted in on peace not even 6 weeks later, when he was to hold the meeting with Russia to start organizing. Actually, it was neither Russia nor Ukraine officially who broke the ceasefire. It's just the grievance groups between the Azov Battalion attacked and killed ethnic Russians in Odessa, and they've done it many times before that. And Mariupol, and right now, had the peace deal and the vote gone through, right, only a tiny amount of Ukraine would be an independent country overseen by Russia. Not even half the current occupied territory would have been lost. Then, when they didn't accept the 2022 peace deal, again, they've lost now more territory, right? Because they don't want to let go of Crimea, because the British want to turn it into a naval base. Why? This is the thing. It's the Crimeans there don't want the Ukrainians. The people of Crimea are not the same people of Ukraine. And most of the people of Ukraine are the Slavs pushed outward, right, into Poland and Romania by the advancing Mongols long ago. They so at what point does the land become someone's homeland? I think maybe after 3 generations, but and mixing with the local population. The regions of Europe have changed so many times that, I mean, the Hungarians today are not all descendants of the Hugar. I think I apologise for mispronouncing it. I've always struggled with pronunciations. Same as the Romanians, the Romney. I think are a minority in their homeland. Same with the Hugar. Most Europeans are minorities in their homeland. So when you want to decolonise the world, let's start with Europe, shall we? Let's start with Ukraine. The majority, whether they like it or not, are ethnic Russians. It's just they've created this artificial difference by separating into Ukrainian with their proto-Russian language. And sorry, not proto-Russian. What is it? People who speak Ukrainian could understand Russian and vice versa. It's a dialect. That's the word I was really looking for. Sorry. So, with the war, the state of the war is Ukraine. When the ceasefire was like an hour into, reported yesterday, an hour into the ceasefire, Ukraine violated ceasefire over 1,000 times. The standing orders of the Ukrainian army is to defend your positions. And the Ukrainians have not stopped attacking the Russians. And the Russians have been successful at defending their positions. And so after an attack on Rostov, I said there is likely to be a response. There was. A couple of hours after the attack on Rostov, the Russians did respond with drone attacks on... that's the second attack. The Ukrainians attacked a transport in Zaporozhye, but the Russians did respond. They did fire drones and at launch sites in and around Kharkiv and however in this region. But again, Ukraine doesn't show you the results. They don't want you to know results. So heavy build-ups of the Ukrainians were shelled. The Russians held their positions. And Trump has asked the ceasefire to extend, calling on both sides to, return. And Putin, well, we've heard from Putin, but not from Zelensky. But that could be because most Ukrainian news isn't translated into English, so I cannot say definitively that he has not responded. But he has responded by going to England, apparently. Apparently, because his travel arrangements are secret, but whenever there's a leak, if they say he's going to England, he's going anywhere but England. I believe the Ukrainian delegation will be meeting with President Trump tomorrow, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's actually Marco Rubio not President Trump, Marco Rubio in Florida. Again, they always mislead with their news. They cannot tell you this. If the Ukrainian tells you it's raining, look, check outside, will you? But yeah, now Ukrainian news has reported that Russia has advanced in and attacked Novorossiysk. Yet Novorossiysk, this map hasn't updated. So, and I can't find any other news to back this up. It's the same with you know, they said, oh, Russia's advanced here and Russia's advanced here and Russia's advanced here. Yeah, no. And someone else claimed that I know other YouTubers watch and said, oh, Russia's taken Krasnoyarsk. No, I said that they are advancing on and stopped short of Krasnoyarsk when the ceasefire was announced. And most of the front is keeping to the ceasefire. It's just these are positions of reported gunfire or artillery fire which are in response to attacks by Ukraine. But some of these markers on the are actually old. For some reason, this site does not take down every marker. It does not give an expiry to markers. It has to manually expire. They often assume combat continues unless reported otherwise. Now, the combat reports are in Ukrainian, by the way. But Zelensky apparently did issue a general order not to attack, after to say he'll never bow to Putin, after Putin's little speech about, I forget which exact, if there was any exact location or whatever, but he did say he was going to rain missiles down on Zelensky's head, but he didn't say where. So whatever he said to Zelensky knew that he now knows, Russia knows where he is precisely in. So he issued a decree saying, no, don't strike Red Square. And so, of course, this comes hours after the FSB arrested 3 Ukrainian agents, well, actually a Ukrainian agent and his recruits for planning an attack on Moscow. So, yeah, this Ukrainian news, of course, decrees. They are actually in Ukrainian, and they have Zelensky, like President Otto Pen, does use, he does issue decrees. But that's what this is what most Ukrainian military news looks like. And yeah, most of these combat markers are a day old. Most of today, as you can tell, other than a few explosions, was mostly peaceful. The air defense alerts were Russia responding to, if they detected a drone, they sent a drone to. And a lot of these drones, apparently, other than a few eye scanners, were directed directly at launch points. Now, the scanners were electronic warfare and communication hubs. There was no actual organised combat today. Now, remember, folks, this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience, is brought to you by no one, no government. If I accept money from a government, that would automatically come with strings and is automatically a way of silencing free speech. As with most of you out there know, most of the big YouTube channels are sponsored by someone, but those military channels who have all the inside information are government mouthpieces approved by CIA, MI6, or Mossad, etc., and beholden to the whims of the Ukrainian government to produce propaganda. Now, yes, Russia engages in propaganda, and often this propaganda is an interesting form of propaganda, and that is weapon sales. But I thought this is interesting because we all know governments have replaced long ago human workers with robots in many jobs, or that's what the Industrial Revolution is, replacing humans with machines. But the next Industrial Revolution, I thought you might want to look at it, just for the sake of knowing well, one, how an aircraft is put together by a few people. Not many people work on an aircraft, by the way. You do hear about thousands of workers, but remember, that's thousands of workers over lots of plants. Most of these plants only have a few people in each one. And then machine operators and the assemblers. That's it. A lot of them are management as well. A lot of, these are one of the most top-heavy companies in the world, defense industries. And a lot of and the largest amount of workers are security, not actual assemblers. So this is to advertise the Su-57. This is the export version of the Su-35. Remember, these are stressed aluminum airframes. That's what an airframe looks like. So what you're looking at is a aluminum airframe after it's been machined. Yeah, the machine basically goes into like a mold. The sheet is pressed together at the seam. You can see the seams. You can see where it's at. The plates are pushed and attached. So you got this is all one sheet on top. This is the sheet underneath is the sheet, and then cut sections are pressed, and you can see the attachment points. They run a analyzer on the electronics, heat test, and other stress tests, fuel cells. There's the engine, how it's assembled. You can see it's all parts, all assembled machine parts. You can see the machines in the rear, and we'll get to those machines shortly. But there you go. Engines, airframes, how they're attached. And that's what it is. It's just an assembly line. And each stage, those carriages that they're sitting on, they're moved by, powered. They move. As an aircraft goes out the front door, they're brought forward. Now, yes, you're going to say this is cut and paste. There's not that many aircraft. Yes, I'm aware of this. I'm only showing you this so you know actually how an aircraft they are actually in a lot about. I've actually seen photos of aircraft assembly before. They're usually about three stages where it's painted, pushed to final assembly where it's painted and rolled out the door. But the whole plant, it's aircraft moved around on these big. They are sitting almost close to the floor. They're big rollers underneath, though. They've got huge chrome steel rollers. But precision diamond drills, although that's not you're going to say, but Dave, that's not a diamond drill. Again, for propaganda purposes, they're not going to show you the exact tool they use. But I thought it's still the same process. This is where it starts. Polished aluminum. Well, it's a titanium aluminum alloy. And yes, it is to advertise the aircraft. Alright. I paused and rolled the video back a little bit because of the ad. And so there you go. Here we go. See? Those cranes are robots. Robotic cranes to exactly precision. Yeah, you can skip the propaganda part. So you have your undercoat. These are different aircraft. They're not. Yeah, this is. So, yeah, there. The placing of the electronics into the cockpit. The cockpit itself, as you can see, is robotically assembled. The nose, everything. Very few workers. They are monitoring the machines as they build. That's the variable thrust system, and others. Yeah, the robots come in, bang. Yeah, see the robots. Um, yeah. So when you see an aircraft built, you are looking to see the variable thrust system. So when you see an aircraft being built, it's probably anything before 2020, maybe. I mean, maybe except America. Most countries were labor intensive, particularly Russia, which is. But as you probably know, Russia's predominantly heavily reliant on robots compared to China. So is Japan, and so the robotics revolution, the 3D printed, as you can see, a 3D printed aircraft is not far off the horizon where the entire process is machine. The SU-57 is not entirely what you would call a 3D printed aircraft, but it's getting there with the robotics. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I've seen those machines." Yeah, a lot of those machines are the same use machines you see in auto factories. But you notice there's the same amount of workers in an auto factory working per car, working per aircraft, except, there's, as you can see, they've filled in every stage with an aircraft to make it look like, they could roll out aircraft the same way they could roll out a car production, where anybody working in the aircraft industry is saying, nah, they're rolled through stages where you'd have racks of parts and stuff. Yeah, that again, I know that's propaganda, but still, it tells you where they're headed mentally and what drives them. And once you can understand it, it can help you make informed decisions whether or not how much advanced technology you want to support, in which direction you want it to go. Because remember, there's always someone who wants it to go further to cut more people out, because all they can think about is making more. That boomer mentality. Now, this may be propaganda by Ukraine, and it is. However, it's not propaganda by Ukraine. This is propaganda aimed at Ukraine by Nityan Upapathi. We're a very good Ukrainian name, I'm sure. How strong human capital is a common factor in successful societies. He's actually arguing against diversity. His core argument is against diversity, that given limited resources, to focus on meeting demographic goals, and the most efficient and far-sighted answer to demographic challenges is investing in the capacity of Ukrainians' people, health, education, and labour force, rather than changing the population size or structure. That is, he's arguing against importing labour into Ukraine. That's behind successive cohesive societies. For any recovery is not population size. He's a leading economist with the World Economic Forum. World Bank. Sorry. Yeah, an Indian arguing against Yeah. Arguing for financial support, universal health care, and all these other programs, but then argues against mass migration. Isn't that interesting? No mass migration for yet the same people. Remember, this is funded by the British government. The British government who funds mass migration for England because it's a necessity to meet our goals. Yet the very economists are saying the exact opposite. Just so you know. Now, is Russia going to negotiate with Europe? Well, maybe. I think they have been. But it's been falling short. But Italy has made the first cracks. Remember, everything Russian was banned in Europe, but Europe is quietly lifting cultural embargoes, starting with Italy, and I believe Ukraine is furious, but Rome has officially began to lift cultural embargoes, even though many European allies are against this. The Italians have calmly responded that it's within their interests to negotiate with Russia. But of course, the ideological framework in which Zelensky operates is a narrow wartime mentality, and it's not suitable for long-term solutions in Ukraine. And remember, he's an actor playing a role and reading lines. He is first and foremost a businessman who is in position of power to enact the distribution of state funds to his donors' private enterprises, who he is in business partnership with. And is a major conflict of interest, but it's not against Ukrainian law. It's just like Germany. It's just like the French dictatorship. Every dictatorship always makes their corruption legal. Now, Putin put out a speech saying we don't need anybody's permission to hold Victory Day, and that's the speech in which Zelensky responded to 13 hours ago. And again, other than a few drone attacks and a few sporadic fighting, right, which you can see, which the Russians have not engaged in large-scale combat. They've only been, as reported, engaged in defense against the Ukrainians. And despite the announcement that the ceasefire is to be extended, Ukraine is still attacking Russians' positions. Because Zelensky's ceasefire is only not to attack Moscow, by the way. Again, it's in Ukrainian, so I'm not blaming you for not understanding or reading it. But the part that was in English was very specific. Did not say do not attack Russia or the Russians in Ukraine. It only said don't attack Moscow. Now, Trump has voiced his hope that this is the beginning of the end. And as you can see, Russia's reported violations of the truce. But he's hoping that from today, the ceasefire will be extended and mark the beginning of the end of major conflict operations. I believe this is the first time he's indicated that reminding people that he's put a short rope on it and he's about to yank it for them both. I hope he is even-handed this time and treats them both as violators, both of them equally told to sit down, work it out. You can't leave the room until you lock the... All right, boys, in the room, lock the doors, sort it out. I don't care how you do it, but I want an agreement on the table, and here's the agreement. Work it out. How are you going to implement it? That's it. I'm done with you both. And look, I'm not saying Ukraine is incapable of maturity. I'm saying Zelensky is incapable because he's corrupt. He doesn't see himself as corrupt. He denies it, of course, but you can see where the evidence of it, like his wife buying $1 million jewelry. Oh, but he's a successful actor. A successful actor in Ukraine does not earn $1 million, okay? Or have $1 million to spend on jewelry. He wouldn't earn $1 million as president of Ukraine. He earns less than the president of Vietnam, by the way. Ukraine is like, what? 37% or something below the European standards of living. But he earns, we could earn, but 300 something thousand, pesos. It's ridiculous. When the average Ukrainian earns 56,000, no, 5,600 a month. He earns that much more than everyone else. It's ridiculous. There's no way as president and all his businesses are not military contractors getting constant flow of money. But no, I'm a humanitarian. And again, all these properties. Who's renting his properties at exorbitant amounts? Europeans, of course. And who are these Europeans? And what are they doing? Again, these are all ways of corruption that people don't even consider. So there's the state of Ukraine. It's a mess that most people want to ignore, that most people who follow the war don't want the truth. They want to be comforted, and that is emotionally immature, and they are setting themselves up to fail by lying, by twisting everything. Oh, I want to jump the gun and say, this town has fallen when it hasn't. Often this is, particularly on YouTube, driven by view counts and desires to get ahead of everyone else through any means necessary. When you ignore ethics and the audience doesn't punish you for ignoring ethics, that just shows you that, they're there. It's not just the channels that are the problem, it's the viewers who let themselves be lied to with obvious lies. Like, yes, I'm very well aware that the Russians lie and that Su-57 production was pretty close to the truth from other videos that I've seen on aircraft production, but the amount of robotics used by Russia is dramatically increased, which means they are gearing up for even bigger production. So the Russian economy has grown, unlike the Ukrainian economy, which has fallen. And I think a lot of people don't understand. Russia is piggy in the middle. They have the largest land borders in the world. They have to deal with the Chinese nicely because China can invade. They've got to try and make sure that China keeps its people out of Russia as much as Russia can try to keep its people out. It has a large populous neighbor. It's the same with India. I hate the fact that countries can go, well, don't mass migrate to this country, just mass migrate to everywhere else. It's ridiculous. And then you have anti-immigration. By the way, this weekend there's an anti-immigration rally tomorrow in Karachi. Yeah, Pakistan, protesting against Chinese migrants. So don't think that Ukraine is the most corrupt country in the world, because it isn't. Don't think Russia's the most evil country in the world, because it isn't. These are two countries who are very similar in economics, in mentality, and in language, and in culture. And they are grinding up against each other because Ukraine has grievances and Russia wants to be seen as the good guy. So they restrained themselves from interfering in Ukraine, but they also still want to be a world power, so they intervened because the UN would do nothing for 10 years against ethnic cleansing. So liberal Europe and liberal America created a problem out of their own spiteful politics, which could have been easily solved with a pragmatic approach. And see, this is why I say Trump is a businessman. He's a pragmatist, they call him populist, but he's a pragmatist, not a politician. And you can see there are tensions even amongst the people he's picked. And a lot of people argued against some of his picks, and they turned out to be right. So there is that. But to argue that Trump couldn't end the Ukraine war, no. It's because the people who could end the Ukraine war are deliberately not ending the Ukraine war just so Trump doesn't get credit. We've seen this before, where Democrats had the power to end the Vietnam War and wouldn't, because they started it. They wanted to offload the Vietnam War onto the Republicans. So instead of ending the war 6 months before the election, LBJ decided to carry it over because he realised he was going to lose. And and that's often why Republicans win elections, because if Democrats could cheat as everybody claims they could, they'd never lose an election unless they wanted to. So take that to the bank. But it's a check they will not cash, because that would mean they're accepting responsibility, because we all know at the end of the day these are bankers' wars. The bankers in Europe fund these wars. They funded both sides in World War I, World War II, and again, I'm not saying all bankers. I'm talking about the Swiss bankers and the British and French and German bankers. They all took a chunk, and then when things got really bad at the end of the war, they all went to America. And we're going to see the same in Ukraine, by the way. We are going to see, and we've already seen, the richest Ukrainians leave. 9 of them went to Switzerland, a few went to Russia, a few went to Canada, and right now they're pushing hard for Canada to go to war. To go to war in this new NATO alliance and to bring hyper advanced weapons. And they recently wrote an article. I could not find it. It was on my phone, and now it isn't. It's showing up as blank. I thought I screen captured it, but I didn't. I apologise. I'm dragging this out too long, aren't I? But I apologise. One last thing. Yes, there was an article. I did. Ukraine is blaming America for not providing. They already started the blame game, blaming America for their losses in Ukraine. So they are already setting up to blame Ukraine's loss on Trump. But I'm looking for it, and I hope to bring it to you tomorrow. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.